Some places are abandoned for a reason. This is the story of Emily, a brave but curious girl who dared to step into the forgotten world of the abandoned doll factory. What she discovered inside still haunts her to this day. Act 1. The Legend of the Factory. The old doll factory had been abandoned for years. Locals said it closed after the owner, a man known as Mr. Blythe, mysteriously vanished. He was a master doll maker, but some said he had become obsessed with his work, obsessed in a way that wasn't normal. According to the legend, Mr. Blythe believed he could bring his dolls to life. People in town often heard strange noises coming from the factory late at night, whispers, footsteps, and the faint sound of a music box. No one dared to go near the factory, except for Emily. She wasn't scared of ghost stories, or so she thought. Act 2. The First Step Inside. It was a gloomy autumn afternoon when Emily decided to explore the factory. She'd always been curious about the place, and she wasn't one to back down from a challenge. The air inside was cold and heavy, filled with the smell of dust and decay. Emily's flashlight beam swept across the room, revealing old assembly lines and shelves stacked with unfinished dolls. At first, everything seemed normal, just an old, forgotten factory. But as she ventured deeper, she started to notice things that didn't make sense. Some of the dolls weren't covered in dust, as if someone had moved them recently. She picked up one of the dolls, its lifelike glass eyes staring back at her. For a moment, she thought she saw the eyes blink. She dropped it immediately, her heart racing. Act 3. The Whispering Room. As she moved further into the factory, Emily heard it. Soft whispers coming from one of the rooms. She couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like children. Against her better judgment, Emily pushed the door open. Inside, she found rows and rows of dolls sitting on shelves, their eyes all fixed on her. At the center of the room was a single rocking chair, creaking back and forth as if someone had just been sitting in it. Emily felt a chill run down her spine. The whispers had stopped, but the silence was even worse. She turned to leave, but as she reached the door, she heard a soft voice behind her say, "Stay and play." There was no one there, just the dolls, staring at her with their glassy, lifeless eyes. Or were they lifeless? Act 4. The Moving Dolls. Panic set in as Emily realized she wasn't alone. She could hear the faint pitter-patter of footsteps, but every time she turned around, the hallway was empty. She tried to convince herself it was her imagination, but then she saw it, a doll at the end of the hallway standing upright. It wasn't there a moment ago, and it was slowly moving toward her. Emily screamed and ran, her flashlight flickering as she turned corner after corner. But no matter where she went, the dolls seemed to follow, appearing in doorways and peeking around corners. Act 5. The Final Room. Out of breath and desperate to escape, Emily found herself in what appeared to be Mr. Blythe's workshop. On the bench was an open journal, its pages filled with scribbled notes about bringing them to life. Suddenly the door slammed shut behind her. The room was plunged into darkness except for the glow of a single music box sitting on the bench. It began to play, its haunting melody filling the air. Dolls began to emerge from the shadows, their glass eyes reflecting the faint light. They moved stiffly, but with purpose, closing in on Emily. And then she saw him. Mr. Blythe, or what was left of him, stood there, his eyes hollow and lifeless. In a voice that sounded like it came from everywhere and nowhere, he whispered, "You'll make a perfect addition." Act 6. The Escape. Summoning all her courage, Emily destroyed the music box, and with it, the spell that seemed to control the dolls. The factory fell silent, and the door creaked open as if inviting her to leave. She never looked back. To this day, Emily refuses to talk about what she saw inside, but the factory still stands, its secrets waiting for the next person brave or foolish enough to enter. Would you dare enter the abandoned doll factory Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. And remember, some places are abandoned for a reason.